Okay. The title of my paper is Aquapoetics of T.S. Eliot in the Wasteland, a study of blue humanism. The Aquapoetics of T.S. Eliot is not simply biotic in relation to his masterpiece, The Wasteland, but rhizospheric as we shift the cellular narratives from androcentrism to phytogeneticism and to aqua dystopia. The dryness in roots of the plants and infertility is brilliantly amalgamated in the opening lines of the poem. April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of dead land, mixing memory and desire, stirring dull roots with spring rain. The dry roots and dry land is essentially a phytometaphoric counterpart to the infertility in male and phallic roots and the female wombland. The botanical life here talks about the absence of optimal level of water availability, which is the reason of both dull roots as well as the dead land. The fluctuation in soil moisture beyond optimal can affect the blossoming and survivability of flowering and fruition. What we find in this botanical metaphor is the aporia of water in the rhizosphere, thereby making the absence presence of growth and health balance and a dysfunctionality of the body parallel with the lack of the plant nutrient uptake. The geoclimatic landscape of England and socio-political situation of the world runs in parallel with the intrapersonal life of Eliot. The cellular dryness is phytocentric as well as androcentric. When we put Eliot's conjugal life with Vivienne in the context, Eliot follows the diachronic narrative in this poem of phytosemiosis and the anatomy of his marriage and create infinity, which is rendered impossible by Cartesian principle that has surgically scissored body from mind soul and has given birth to the fetus of discourse. Instead of I think therefore I am, we have I am sick therefore I am. The lack of water, which is the metaphor of absence of the moisture of love, causing the biological dryness as well as the dryness in the hyperspace of Eliot's microbiological relation with Vivienne. Lack of water and dryness is put in the context of the poem along with the loss of water and transpiration from leaves often surpasses the water uptake rate through the roots causing life to falter, as Eliot's relation does with Vivienne. And what we have as a result in the poem is, to quote, "What are the roots that clutch? What branches grow out of this stony rubbish? Son of man, you cannot say or guess, for you know only a heap of broken images, where the sun beats and the dry dead tree gives no shelter, the cricket no relief, and dry stone no sound of water." And I end my quote. The roots strive to uptake more water through their expansion, and this ultimately adapts plants to minimize stomatal loss of water when there is a water deficit. This is where the post-human entanglement takes place between the phytocentrism and the anthropocentrism. The duality of plant and human life are not only coexistent here, but enmeshed. The biological organism here becomes phyto-exceptionalist, as we see how the water deficit affected the cell division, causing the reduction of the cell wall extensibility and turgor. In the Shipwreck Modernity, Steve Menz explored, quote, "wet narratives that emphasize disorder, disorientation, and rupture," end quote, in juxtaposition with, to open quote, a dry counter movement that attempts to make sense and the meaning of disaster. The contrast between the wet swirl and the dry structure operates as a fundamental division that animates blue humanities thinking. The conceptual distinction between the experience and knowledge and the felt difference between feeling and form flow from the contrast between the wet and the dry. To be wet, to be in, within quote, generates an experience and distinctive feeling. Drying is the slower process, an imposition of form and accumulation of knowledge. The above quotation links blue humanities with my research on Eliot's Aquapoetics and Phytopoetics. The third section of the poem, that is a fire sermon, brings out the aquapoetics and blue humanism as the garbological waste invades Thames, the river Thames, that is. That is why the river the river's tent is broken. The identity of the river becomes fragmented as the nymphs are departed, within quote. The clean and hygienic drinking water is threatened, and so is aquatic life. The nymph can well be the metaphor of the spirits of water, as well as the aquatic beings. The health of maritime life is the most important aspect of aquapoetics, as the sense-making of water life is gradually depleted by the Anthropocene. We understand the disease of pollution has eroded the blue humanities. Thus, the sweet Thames, quote, run softly till I end my song. The song is here also a nostalgic reminiscence of the past, where water bodies had not been encumbered by garbage. Quote, the river bears no empty bottles, sandwich paper, silk handkerchief, cardboard boxes, cigarette ends, or other testimony of summer nights. End quote. Here, the no, quote, the word no is an absence presence when looked from the referentiality of presence. The presentification of now is where the plastic bottles dominate the space of aquapoetics. The emphasis of empty bottles, sandwich papers, and other testimonies of summer nights, within quotes, bring out the geographic invasion of the pollutant in aquatic space and the emergence of the new immortal, the plastic waste. The sense making of a botanist's exploration of plant is the scientific methodology with the teleology of epistemic unraveling of life outside Andros. On the one hand, the poetic imagination of romanticized wonder of natural world and the Darstellung, the German word, Darstellung, created during the 19th century British and German poetics, provided an ontological connection with the nature. The aim of this paper is to bring out how the wasteland amalgamates the phytopoetics and the cellular narratives along with the aquadynamics of the poems. And here the dysfunctionality is the fetus of the metaphor. I can see my time is almost up. Can I just end with three lines?
Yeah, sure. Just
The series
conclude
of
it.
dead bodies floating in Thames, dead land, dryness, infertility, all of them constitute a diseased existence. And we very well know what is a diseased existence post COVID, which introduced the discourse of disengagement between the body and the world, and the body as divided in itself. So we have the primal sectorial disturbance of biome in Gaian hypothesis, seeing Eros meeting Thanatos outside the probiotic engagement of Gaia. Thank you.
Thank you, Devajyoti. I think it was a very, very interesting paper. I mean, yes, Eliot's Wasteland has been analyzed from different perspective, and it has been the